Hello everyone, this is Mogul Motivation episode 427. And before we get into this week's topic, please like, share, subscribe, and comment on this podcast on whatever platform you're listening to it on, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, etc. Please do that one favor for me. Now let's get right into it. Mogul Motivation, empowering and inspiring entrepreneurs and dream chasers worldwide, 1 week at a time. Presented by True Stories Media. And I'm your host, Antoine Twiz Taylor. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Mogul Motivation. Welcome back. I'm happy that you are here. If this is your first time listening, this podcast is for the aspiring entrepreneur trying to get over that hump and make things happen. This podcast is for anybody with a dream that wants to go forward and accomplish that dream. And this is a season of hibernation. It's wintertime here in Chicago. Not officially, but, we're close to wintertime. And hibernation, the watered down version of it that we know is when animals tend to go underground. They tend to sleep. They tend to slow down their lives as they wait out the winters, the harsh colds until spring and everything blooms again and they get back to their normal activities. Humans, we have to undergo hibernation as well sometimes. It doesn't mean it has to be in the winter, but at some point in your life, especially as entrepreneurs, you have to hibernate. We live in a world, I say it all the time, I say it on many of these episodes, that social media dominates. And there's this unspoken, silly rule that if you don't see it on social media, it didn't happen. Right? We have to post all of our accomplishments. We have to post everything that we do. We have to post every detail of our lives. And I'm not telling you it's necessarily wrong to post your accomplishments, but what I am telling you is you should not be striving for accomplishments simply for the sake of posting them. Whether the cameras are on, like social media, or whether the cameras are off, you have to be the same exact person. And that's what I'm challenging you to do right now, because that's what I'm challenging myself to do. I'm not necessarily saying you do things for clout. I'm not saying I do things for clout. I spoke on it on the previous episode. There have been small portions of me, of course, because I am a human, where I wanted certain clout. I wanted people to validate and affirm who I am. But you do not need people to validate and affirm who you are, because as long as you affirm and validate yourself and realize that you and your vision and your dream is straight from God, that's all that matters, because you are still somebody to someone else. You have to be comfortable with being a nobody. That was last week's episode. So this week I'm expanding further on that point. You have to be comfortable with being in solitude. You have to be comfortable with being in the dark. You have to be comfortable with the cameras being off. So if you are truly striving for something, if you are truly working for something, make sure you are working towards that goal with the same intensity when you're not on social media, when you're not in front of a crowd, when you're not around people that's going to validate you, when you are alone. You need to have that same exact intensity. There will be days where you don't feel like doing it. There will be days where you don't think you can give 100%, but nonetheless, you still have to show up for yourself first and foremost. And I'm going to give you a perfect practical example. Yesterday, the day before I recorded this episode, I was having a day. I was having a moment. I wasn't feeling motivated. I was frustrated with the way things were progressing in my life and in my entrepreneurial journey. I was not feeling it, but I made a commitment to myself that this next novel I'm writing will be the best novel I have written so far, and it will be my magnum opus up until this point in my life. But that can only happen if I stick to the goal that I said I was going to do. I have a certain writing goal every single day. And yesterday, I didn't write a single word up until the point when I told myself, you know what? You have to have that same intensity in solitude, that same intensity when you're not feeling it as you do when you are feeling it, as you do when you're around people, as you do when you're talking to people about your goals. That intensity should not change. So therefore, even though I didn't write a single word up until that point yesterday, I told myself I'm going to write. So I got that laptop and I wrote. And I didn't have the attention on meeting my writing goal for the day, right? Because it was already later in the day. I was already feeling fatigued mentally, spiritually. I just didn't feel it, but I said, you know what? I'm going to write something. And before I knew it, I exceeded my writing goal. That was yesterday. The point of me telling you that is my energy was the same when the cameras was off. I wasn't talking to anybody about my goals. I wasn't telling anybody about my book. I wasn't on social media shouting to the mountaintop saying, hey, I'm about to write this great masterpiece. None of that. I was literally in my room alone in solitude in the dark. And I told myself, you know what? You still need to get back to that promise that you made yourself. That's what it's all about, everybody. When the cameras are off, will you have the same intensity? When the cameras are off, will you still have the same dedication to you, yourself, and your goals? Will you have that same vision, the same enthusiasm when the cameras are off? Because once again, we always want to shout to the mountaintops. We always want people to see what we are doing. We always want people to hear what we are doing. But that could be cosmetic. That could be cosmetic enthusiasm, and that cannot be genuine when that's only you, when you are around people and when the cameras are on you. But when the cameras are off, when you are in the dark, when you are in solitude, will you have that same intensity? Will you have that same mindset to go after what you want? This is what hibernation is about for entrepreneurs. It's all about recalibrating. It's all about scaling back. It's all about getting back to the roots of why you do what you do and what you want out of life. It's about clarity. It's about slowing down and assessing everything in your life, the things that went wrong, the things that are going right, and continue to focus on what you really want. So when the springtime comes, or whenever you come out of that hibernation, when you get back to your normal activities, you have to come back, and you have to come back that much stronger, with that much more energy, with that much more enthusiasm, with that much more joy for everything that you do. And you will have that confidence and that courage to understand that what you did was the right thing, and it ain't anybody can tell you that's going to knock you off of that new calibration, because you went through this hibernation period. You had that moment with God. You had that moment with yourself. You understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. You understand that you are here for a purpose, and you understand that you don't have to explain that purpose to anybody. You don't have to validate yourself to anybody, because you are already validated and you are already affirmed. You have to go forward and do what you are meant to do what you want to do, but make sure you keep that same intensity in the darkness when the cameras are off that you have when the cameras are on and when everybody is watching you. So that's my message today, everybody. Let's continue to work. Let's continue to imagine reality. Wintertime, summer, spring, it does not matter. It doesn't matter what the season is. But at some point, as an entrepreneur and as a dream chaser, you have to go into hibernation. You have to detach from everybody, from all the noise, and think to yourself and examine, what do you want out of life? Why do you want it out of life? And have that time with God. Recalibrate yourself. And when you do those things, you will operate when the cameras are off you the same way as you do when the cameras are on you. When you don't feel like it, when you can't give 100%, even if you can only give 20%, you're going to give that 20% with the same intensity as you would with 100%. Because you gave all that you could, but yet you are still moving the needle forward, regardless if you are in isolation, or regardless if you are in a crowd, regardless if you are on social media, regardless if you are alone. You are still going to have that same intensity and enthusiasm towards your goals. So if this podcast has benefited you in any way, shape, or form, I ask for two things as always. Number one, please leave a 5-star review. And number two, pass it on to a friend who may benefit from it as well. Have a great day, everybody, and I will talk to you next week.